Gary, when do you think we can do that?
Which one?
Agent Schaefer?
Probably the 1st of July, end of June, maybe. I got to do one for Randy, and I may just do his and then run over there and do that.
Okay.
Good morning and welcome to the called public meeting of the Henry County Board of Commissioners for 9 a.m. Monday, May 21st, 2012. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for an acceptance of the agenda. Motion by Mr. Holder. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Just as a little bit of historical information, because I see Jason Smith here from the Herald, it's happy birthday, Henry County. Today is the county's 191st birthday. And I have to say, she looks pretty good for her age. And
She does that.
she does. And I think Commissioner Stamey commented earlier, Mr. Holder, that you were here for the first one.
No, I said the question was Mr. Holder here for the first
Okay.
one?
It probably was one, but it wasn't this
This
one.
one.
But I just thought I would put that out there, but this is our birthday, and it's a great day to celebrate a great county. And with that being said, the first item on our agenda this morning is a resolution requesting approval of the second contract with GDOT regarding funds for the acquisition of the airport. Our presenter is Mike Bush, Finance Director, and that's handout number 1. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. This is the second drawdown on the purchase for the Clayton County, the former Tara Fields Airport, now Atlanta South Regional Airport. This drawdown is broken down between the FAA, GDOT, and Henry County. And this is a contract between Henry County and GDOT to accept $261,066 worth of funds for the purchase. The FAA will be providing $4,957,750, and then the county will be contributing $289,795 based on this draw, and that amount of money is included in the original $2.7 million that the county was going to fund the airport that came out of county funds or airport funds, and that's how that breakdown works out. So that 289 is part of that 2.7. Again, this is a GDOT contract between Henry County and GDOT for that purchase price for the airport. I'll take any questions.
And just for clarification purposes, the total purchase price of the 2.7 was spread over 3 budget cycles. This is the second of the budget cycle payment, and then we're receiving some state funds to assist with the match required to pull down the FAA funding.
That is correct.
Okay. Does any board member have a question or comment pertaining to this item?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Holder?
just a thought. If Mr. Bush has that breakdown for people to be able to look at, to just lay it on the overhead so that they can see those numbers and how it does break out, I think it would be good for the people to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I know that there's a lot of confusion when you're pulling grant money down and you're doing the match and things like that. So I just wanted the public to understand that the price was $2.7 million for Henry County. The FAA paid $15 million of that, and this is part of that FAA funding toward that $15 million purchase price on their part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, if not, you have before you a resolution that is approving this, and I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Bowman. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Preston. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the commission salaries. And, Mike, are you going to present this as well?
Yes, ma'am. A few weeks ago, we came before the board and we put in the newspaper the potential reduction of the salaries for the regular commissioners and the vice chairman. A district commissioner currently is at 43,939, would be reduced to 35,000, and the vice chairman is currently at 50,862, and that will also be reduced to 35,000. We're eliminating the additional pay for the vice chairman. All those are base salaries, and then the chairman is currently at 57,786, and will be reduced by 5% to 54,752. And this is for discussion.
Okay. Well, I know we had the discussion, and the purpose in even considering this is that in the budget conditions that we're in, the downturn in the economy, the commissioners had had a discussion actually for a couple of years now about moving forward with a reduction in pay for all of these positions, and it just seemed like it was a prudent time to do that. And if any board member has some questions or comments, we'll entertain those at this time. And,
Just a thought.
Mr. Holder?
Just a thought. There are many that will think that the reason this is being done is not to reduce or to help the budget, but to possibly penalize those that will be taking office on January 1. And that's certainly not the intent. The intent is we've reduced force in the county, and I think it's time that the commissioners take a part of it too. Even though we've done furlough days in the past as equal to what the other employees did, this is a true reduction in our salaries. And none of us may be here, well, two of them will be, come January 1 to have this reduction in salary. But that is certainly not the point and the reason behind reducing it. It has nothing to do with the politics of it. It has to do with the budget and the downturn in the economy and the situation that the county's in at this point.
And I'm glad you did bring up the furlough days, because I've had questions about that as well, because it had to be voluntary on part of elected officials, because the law does not allow for us to just do that. And for the commissioners, I know that we write checks back to the county for the equivalent number of days that are equal to the furlough days. Do you know if all elected officials in the county have done that, or has it just been the commissioners?
I know the sheriff's done it, the tax commissioner has, and the majority of the judges. I don't know if all of them have. I'll have to go back and look at my sheet, but I know that we've been getting, checks once a quarter or once every time there's one done, they have been sending in the money. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So everybody's trying to do their part to make sure that we are all in this boat together, because at the end of the day, we all work for the citizens of Henry County, so I'm glad to know that the other elected officials have done that as well. Mr. Bowman?
Well, Madam Chair, also, we're not just the elected officials. We're citizens that live here in Henry County. And we lived here in Henry County for a long time before we ever thought about running for office. And the office is to serve and to do the best that we can and try to do what we feel like is the right thing and what we were elected to do. So, I think that this is a good move. I think that it's kind of a solidarity move to show the employees, hey, we understand it's tough and we want to take it too. And we have talked about it in the past. I know about 4 years ago we talked about doing it, and it's just something that we need to do it, and that's what it's all about. And like I said, we are tax-paying citizens of Henry County as well as elected officials that we've been put in this position. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Holmes?
Mike, no one up here will be impacted by the reduction in salaries. It's this resolution is for incoming commissioners or re-elected commissioners, correct?
That's a very good question. This resolution will take effect for districts 1, 2, 3, and the chairman January 1, 2013, after the next election takes place. And then 2 years from that, January 1, 2015, it takes effect for districts 4 and districts 5.
So there's really no real impact on this year's budget and probably next year's budget either.
In this year's budget,
No
there is
impact.
none. In next year's budget, it'll be a half year, but it will affect next year's budget.
And I understand next year's budget is going to be as challenging, if not more so, than this year's budget, if I'm hearing correctly from the assessor's office.
That's kind of what I've heard, yes, ma'am. Looks good and challenging again.
That's a good word, challenging. Mr. Preston?
One quick question, just to follow up on Commissioner Holmes, is that there was no way to adjust it as effective immediately, is it, because of we're elected
Correct.
officials?
The only way you could do that is if we did that, we do the furlough days, we could go and calculate out so that you're not paying in more, you're not paying taxes on money that you give back. We could calculate a calculation effective immediately if that's what you want, but it would be a donation back to the county because I have to, by law, pay that salary that you're currently earning.
Right. But legally, there's really no way, unless you're doing some way of handing and donating and all these other things.
Correct. There is no legal way.
And I know, Mr. Bowman had mentioned this before, you can do the calculations on mine, and I can write the check back for the remainder of this year. Mr. Bowman?
And I've gone on record as stating that the first of the year, when this starts, is that you will do a calculation for me. So, I would do mine at the first of the year with the same board, but I really don't want to give money that I've got to pay. I don't want to pay tax on it and then turn around and give it to. So whatever mine calculates after taxes, and
Yes,
you'll
sir.
be able to do that. And
Yes, sir.
Then that's the way I'll handle mine at the first of the year. So.
All right, is there any further discussion on this matter? If not, you have a resolution before you that reduces the salaries of the members of the Board of Commissioners, then I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Holder, second by Mr. Bowman. Oh,
Can we do one thing before we vote? Can we get Mike to put this on the screen too, because this also reflects the true salaries? Do you have a copy of this, Mike?
You talking about the front page for your current
Actually, the
salary?
bottom down, it shows the
bottom.
bottom. Yeah, you don't mind doing that? I'm sorry.
Mr. Holmes?
I want to abstain from this vote because I'm uncomfortable with voting on salaries for incoming commissioners, something that's not going to affect me at all. So I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Ms. County Attorney, Commissioner Holmes has requested to abstain from this vote. Does he have the legal means by which to do that?
Well, the legality of an abstention is really more of a procedural issue as to whether he wants to abstain or not. And that's more of a, because an individual decision that the board members can make as to whether or not they choose to vote on an issue or not.
All right, I thought
There's nothing
when
that mandates.
I thought when we adopted our ethics policy, it basically stated in there, unless there was some type of legal reasons to abstain, that we would have to cast a vote, if I remember correctly.
I believe it said that the board members are expected to vote. If I'm not
Okay,
mistaken,
so if we
Chairman,
all
that they had
decided to
vote.
abstain from voting, then we could all abstain from voting. It's very interesting. That could create a very long meeting.
I think the ethics ordinance did speak to the policy of voting on matters and not voting and recusing in the instance of a conflict of interest. And it spoke about that in a general policy type manner, and there was a statement that y'all should vote, but at the end of the day, whether or not an individual commissioner chooses to exercise that voting obligation is up to the commissioner.
All right, if there's no further questions or discussion from the board, all in favor of the resolution? All opposed? All right, the motion carries with Bowman, Holder, Mathis, Stamey, and Preston in favor, and with one abstention from Commissioner Holmes. All right, at this time, we do need to move into executive session. And so I will entertain a motion for that, for the purposes of potential pending litigation, personnel, land acquisition matters.
Madam Chair, before we go into executive session, it won't take but a minute, but we talked about the birthday of Henry County, and I think it's important. Henry County, of course, was created in 1821 and was the mother of counties for some that really haven't looked at the history of Henry County. But Henry County at that time extended from what we now know as Monroe County all the way to the south bank of the Chattahoochee River, which included parts of Fulton, parts of the city of Atlanta, part of DeKalb. large county, and as you will see where in the 1820s to 24, Butts County was carved out of Henry, Spalding, parts of Fayette, Newton, Rockdale. But even in more current history, that was 40 years before the Civil War. So just think about it. And things that have happened in this county over, we'll say, in the 20th century. Probably the greatest thing was I-75 in the 60s. It infused a lot of blood into Henry County and made Henry County, in many cases, the envy of other counties because of economic growth and of course, population increased too, which some people didn't like. Look at the buildings. Think about back in 1897 when the first courthouse, well, not the first courthouse, the second courthouse is built. The courthouse is what we know today as the old courthouse was built. Think about the economic impact that put on the taxpayers of Henry County to make those kinds of investments in the future. So when you bring it all into perspective, we're facing today what many of our forefathers have faced in years prior. So I just thought when we say Henry County is 191 years old, yeah, it's 191 years old. But we need to look back and see where it started, what has happened in between, and where we are today. And I think it gives us a better reflection on what Henry County really is. Had to say that.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And we had a little bit of that conversation the last meeting when we recognized the Water Authority. There was very little population in Henry County. Why in the world did they want to build a reservoir? But thankfully they did, and that has certainly helped us in this economic climate and to provide for the citizens not only now but for many years to come. So that visionary leadership was here from the very beginning. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All right, at this time I need a motion to convene into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stamey, second by Mr. Preston. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Shay, you ready? I need a motion to reconvene into public session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Holmes and a second by Mr. Stamey. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. I need a motion for an approval of an affidavit and resolution pertaining to executive session. Motion by Mr. Holder, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. If there's no further business to come before the board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Stamey. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Preston. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. We stand adjourned.